You are listening to Journeys with Rebecca Radio with your host, Rebecca Jernigan, your tour guide into discoveries. Coming to you live simulcast from the heart of America to around the globe via the World Wide Web, terrestrial radio, satellite, and podcast. Let's journey together into the realms of the unknown to the known in search of enlightenment, knowledge, and truth.
Good evening. I am here in the heart of America, broadcasting live and heard on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, Studio B, being simulcast at wolfspiritradio.com, and also heard on my website, journeyswithrebecca.com. This is your host, Rebecca Jernigan, and you are listening to Journeys with Rebecca. And welcome to the Friday night Journeys with Rebecca live broadcast. It's going to be a really good night again tonight. I have a really wonderful show, and I'm going to start out by saying it's all about you. That's actually the name of the book by my guest tonight, and his name is Rev Thabatti, and tonight we're going to be discussing the personal time map system. Wouldn't it be helpful if you could look ahead 2 weeks into your life and know which relationships look expansive and fruitful, or which could be fraught with disaster? You could be making smarter business decisions. Is this the best time to agree with this deal or to ensure better relationships? Should I take a vacation now or in 2 months? Time your financial commitments. Should I make a financial investment now or wait? Improve your family relations. Now is the best time to tell me we are moving her into an assisted living. So welcome to the Personal Time Map System. It's 22 years in development by Rev Thabatti. He's creator. He's the author. He's a syndicated newspaper columnist and also a radio show host himself. The personal time mapping integrates a person's date of birth with universal laws structured in the ancient science of the standard deck of playing cards, a science that actually goes far back into history. There's actually far more to a deck of cards than just poker. So if you want to find out about how accurate the cards are for you, tonight is going to be the night that you need to listen in to this show. We're going to have some special treats along with this. We're going to be giving you some links, and we're going to give you some visual things that you can go and follow during the show once we get Reverend Thabatti online. But first, I'd like to remind everyone that if you go to my website, journeyswithrebecca.com, you can click on in the upper right-hand corner of all the pages to get your free and confidential newsletter from me. I send them out about once a week, more or less, depending on if there's any new news or information. Also, please remember that both of these radio stations are commercial-free and listener-supported, so use the support button at freedomslips.com or the donation button at wolfspiritradio.com. Every little bit helps to keep the shows and all of the great guests and programs and hosts on the air for all of the information that's being shared. Also for tonight, if you have questions, obviously the chat boxes will be open, the chat rooms are open, and you can find that at freedomslips.com as well as wolfspiritradio.com. We do have monitors in there as well as at my website, journeyswithrebecca.com. Please make sure that they are in all capital letters so that we do know that it's a question and not just a conversation taking place amongst you. So, again, we may take some calls tonight. I'm not sure, depending on how fast this goes, because there's a ton of information that Reverend Thabatti will be sharing with us tonight. So if that's the case, I'll certainly be giving out the call-in number, although we didn't have much success with it the last couple of times for whatever reason. So maybe for tonight we'll just keep it to the chat room. I think that would probably be the best thing. So now that I've chatted enough, let's go ahead and bring my guest on, Reverend Thabatti. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you, sweetheart?
I am absolutely fantastic. And yourself. I know how well you are, but you might want to tell everyone else how well you are.
I am doing great, grand, and glorious, and it's just an absolute honor to be a guest on your show.
Well, thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to have new people on that people out there haven't maybe heard of yet, or certainly to spread out some more information for people. So I know that there was some biography information that I did give a little bit at the beginning of the show, Reverend Thabatti, but I didn't certainly share a lot of your background, and maybe that might be a really good place for us to start. Obviously, you're a clergyman, Reverend Thabatti, as in your name. And so whatever made you, first of all, is how did you find the system? What was the driving force in finding the system into the cards and the numbers? Obviously, you talk about universal law. So obviously there's a lot of heavy spiritual connection there. So maybe you give us a little background and talk about all of the books that you have authored, as well as a little bit of information about It's All About You.
well, sure, and thank you, Rebecca. Actually, your introduction was wonderful, and so a little bit about me is that, and what really sparked all of this was in college I was a physics major, and I majored in physics because I have a passion for fixing things. I love to fix things, but I have a fundamental theory that says that you can't fix something until you first understand its operation. And so physics is a science that teaches us how the universe works and how to explain that mathematically. But then I minored in comparative religions. And the reason why I minored in comparative religions is because I was always so fascinated with the powerful, influential effect that religion has on its followers. And so in the course of studying the great religions of the world, I became even more so interested in what do they have in common? Where do they come together? Where do they all agree, or what is the common denominator? And what just kept coming up for me was the word truth. For example, the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu scripture, says that the truth is triumphant and always prevails in the end. And the Holy Quran says that the truth is eternal and the truth is everlasting. And then the Holy Bible says the truth will set you free. So then that was the moment when I realized, well, then it's not religion then that I'm seeking. It's where does one find this truth, that they're all pointing in the direction of this truth. So I was in a poker game, and I lost, upon losing my chips and everything. Everybody, lost except the guy who won. And as he's grabbing this whole gigantic stack of chips, these words came out of his mouth that I'll never forget. And he said, "The cards don't lie." And here I am. I'm a self-proclaimed truth seeker, and I hear these words. I've studied all the religions of the world, except this was the one stone that was simply left unturned, was the standard deck of playing cards. And so upon doing my own investigation into the deck of playing cards, I discovered that there's a mathematical correlation between the structure of the deck and the structure of our calendar. And so being a physics major makes me automatically a student of Albert Einstein, because Albert Einstein is most famous for proving the relationship between time and space. It's known as the law of relativity, or even more so, it's called E equals mc squared. But for what that simply means, though, is it means wherever we are, there's always the time we're there. And that time and space must coexist, or we don't exist, according to Einstein. So what happened in my discovery of the deck of playing cards and how does it relate to our modern calendar is I also had some observations about the deck of playing cards, which still fascinates me even 2 decades later into this science. And that is, for example, no matter where we go in the world, if we walk into a casino, we will see that they're all in agreement around one deck and one deck only. It's not tarot cards. It's not angel cards, but it is the standard deck of playing cards that attracts all the money. In other words, this deck is familiar to games like poker, blackjack, solitaire, etc. Another thing and the reason why it attracts all the money is because, once again, it's been said forever that the cards don't lie. For example, right now, there is someone sitting at a casino table, and there's like $5-10 million in chips on the table, where they're awaiting the turn of the next card, which means that the casino is wagering $5 million and the player is wagering $5 million over the turn of the next card. And when that card turns, that's like the gavel on a judge's bench. Boom! It verdict in. There's no instant replay. I mean, that's it. You either win or you lose, and that just fascinates me. The power of this deck. Then, another thing that can be said about this deck of playing cards is that the deck of playing cards, which is rooted in ancient science, or I should say maybe ancient science is rooted in the deck of playing cards, is that the structure of the deck remains unchanged since its origin. For example, if someone says to us, I read this in the Bible the other day, or the Bible says this or that, today we have to ask, what version of the Bible are you referring to? Is it the Catholic version? Is it the Jehovah's Witness version? Is it the Mormon version? Is it the King James version? Because there's over 1,000 versions of the Bible, but yet there's only one version of the deck of playing cards, and there still exists no authority anywhere on earth that can change the structure of this deck. In other words, there's not like the king of Zaire that could say, we don't need the 5 of diamonds anymore, get rid of that. In other words, the reason why this is so is because we deeply and intrinsically know that we are linked to this deck of playing cards. It's a universal system. And so how this relates to our date of birth and how it relates to the time map and how it relates to the calendar is there are 52 cards in the deck representing the 52 weeks in our year. Then there are 12 face cards or royal cards that are the jacks, queens, and kings. There's a total of 12, and those 12 cards represent our 12 months. And it also represents the 12 a.m. and the 12 p.m. hours of each day. Then we have 4 suits that are hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades. And these 4 suits represent the 4 directions of time. Just like in space, we have 4 directions that are north, south, east, and west. We also have 4 directions in time that are hearts, is when we advance emotionally, clubs is when we advance mentally, diamonds is financially, and spades is spiritually. And so everyone is seeking to advance in these areas. Wouldn't you agree, Rebecca?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so then when we divide the deck in half, the hearts and the diamonds compose the red cards, the clubs and the spades are the black cards. And so this red and black represents the positive and negative aspect of our existence, as in night and day, or inhale and exhale. Also, anytime we jumpstart a car, we have to connect to the red and black terminal on any battery, which is denoting the positive and negative force. And then because the positive and negative force is absolutely necessary. For example, we can't disconnect the black cable from our car battery because we only want positive energy going into our car. In other words, the universe doesn't operate this way, and neither does the car. Also, the red and black is used in business, where every business out there is always striving to get out of the red and into the black. Then there are 13 cards in every suit going from the ace to the king. And so these 13 cards represent the number of times that the moon orbits the earth each year. And the 13 cards also represents the 12 signs of the zodiac plus the sun. Then when all 13 cards are laid out in sequential order from the ace to the king, the 7th card naturally sits at the center, having 6 cards on each side of it. And so that 7th card sitting at the center represents the number of days in the week. In other words, there's 52 cards in the deck. 5 plus 2 is 7. So it all boils down to this number 7, where 7 is the number of days in the week regardless of what calendar we're using. It doesn't matter whether it's the Mayan calendar, or lunar calendar, the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar. It makes no difference. 7 days is what constitutes a week, meaning that there's a universal agreement there. Also, 7 represents the number of color vibrations ranging from red to violet that allow us to see. 7 is also the number of musical tones, which are also vibrations that allow us to hear, ranging from A to G. 7 is also the number of holes visible. Whenever we look upon each other, there's 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and a mouth. And so, to make a long story short, I know, too late. So,
no, it's all good. No, it's fascinating.
Okay, good. Okay.
You're doing good.
Oh, good. Thank you. To make a long story short, every day of the year has a card, a playing card that is mathematically assigned to it. And so if anybody wants to see what card in the deck belongs to them, then they can go to my website, which is thepower.org. That's 2 words, thepower.org, and just click on look up your birthday, and it doesn't cost anything. You can look up your birthday, you can look up your family, your friends, and you'll discover some very amazing things there. But beyond that, your birth card serves 2 functions, and I'll come back to that in a moment, because since we have generous time here, I want to go back and talk about those 4 suits. Is that okay, Rebecca?
Absolutely perfect. More information, better.
Okay, good. Thank you. So the 4 suits, which are hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades, which is the natural order of the 4 suits, are hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades, which represent the 4 seasons of the human life cycle. What that means is hearts being the first season represents spring. So what happens is we spring into existence, and hearts represents our emotional nature. So it is during this season where there is someone changing our diapers and someone is feeding us, and all of this important attention centers around us if we ever become injured or sick. It is during this season that we learn about the concept of family and the home. And it's during this time when it's like, here, this is your grandma. She has a mustache. Kiss your grandma, kiss your grandma. This is your cousin Pete, and this is Ellie Mae over here. And so what happens is, then we suddenly find ourselves in a classroom, which is now clubs. Clubs is the suit that symbolizes our mental nature. And so what happens is we go from the home to the classroom. We go from our parents to our teachers. Then with all of this education, we then go out into the world to make money. This is now the diamond season. This is the fall, the harvest season. And during this season, the way we make money in society is by establishing value as a business that either offers a product or a service, or we establish value as an employee who is imperative to the operation or successful operation of a business. Then, in the final season of the human life cycle, this is now spades, where spades represents our health, because what completes the human life cycle is when the health is completely exhausted. What happens in this final season is when body parts start to go bad. Doctor visits, the prescription drug commercials become more appealing on TV. Here, try this. You got that? Try this. So this is the spade season of the human life cycle. And so another thing about the 4 suits is the 4 suits in the time map system is what addresses all of the issues and concerns that whatever we have. In other words, on a time map, Hearts answers our questions on personal issues, our love life issues, romantic issues, family issues are all answered in Hearts. Clubs answer our questions on planning issues, legal, tax, insurance issues, educational issues. Then Diamonds will answer our questions concerning money, business, and priority issues. And then Spades will answer questions concerning our career, residence, or health issues. Then another thing about the deck of playing cards is that there's 4 aspects of the deck of playing cards, of which I represent only 3. The first aspect, we're going to just get that out of the way, that's gaming. You know, poker, blackjack. I can't help you with your game there. Okay, but the other 3 though is what I've written books on all the other 3, which is there's the mathematical scientific aspect of the deck of playing cards, which is the time map system. Then there's the personality characteristics, which is the book All About You, which is also available at thepower.org. But then, and then there's also the scriptural teachings, where I also wrote a book entitled The Scripture of 52 Cards, but that book is not being released yet. We've got a ways to go with that. But then another thing about the deck of playing cards is that as a scripture, the first thing it teaches us is that it is our belief that we're not that's keeping us from being all that we truly are, being made in His image and likeness. Another thing that we are taught is that the way that we reestablish heaven on earth is through mastery of these 4 suits. What that means is achieving the unconditional love and happiness of Hearts, the know-how and intelligence of Clubs, the abundance and prosperity of Diamonds, and the perfect health and divine wisdom of Spades. So now going into explaining to the audience what the time map is. A time map is a mathematical technology that integrates our date of birth with universal laws that govern existence. In other words, what it does is the time map system integrates our date of birth with the ancient science of the standard deck of 52 playing cards. And so what will happen is when a person sees what their birth card is, that birth card actually serves 2 functions. One is that card describes personality characteristics that explain why we are the way we are, because another thing that's been said in many of the great scriptures that I read are these 2 words that say, know thyself. And so that's what the book All About You is about. So what happens is, if someone can go to the website and they can purchase their chapter, on their birth card, which is only like $2.95, or they can purchase the entire book for like $29. But what someone will discover in the book All About You is each chapter reveals the personality characteristics that explain why you are the way you are. Then it goes on to tell you how you operate on a subconscious level, what it is that you're constantly becoming, what are your passions and wants, what drives you and makes you tick, what areas in life are you expanding and growing, what are your lifetime challenges and what are your lifetime difficulties, with what birthdays are you most compatible, and what famous people share these personality traits with you. That's the format for each chapter in the book All About You. But then, even more importantly, it's the time map system, because what the time map does is the time map is a tool that provides us with illuminated directional guidance, or with illuminated empowerment, because there's a reason why we use headlights when we're driving down a dark road. There's a reason. And whatever that reason is the same exact reason why we need the time map system. And so, like, where we are is a map of the United States. For those of us that are not outside the United States listening, where you are, it's a map of your country. But where we are is called a map of the United States, but when you are, that's the time map system. What happens is, when we're looking at a map of the United States, the first thing we're able to do is locate exactly where we are on that map. So therefore, the first function of that map is to show us where we are, which is also what the time map does, is the time map shows us where we are in the context of time. The second function of a map is to show us what to expect in the future if we go in any direction. For example, a map of the United States tells us that if we go north, it tells us that Canada will come into our future. Or that if we go south, it tells us that Mexico will come into our future. But what neither map is doing is neither map is predicting which way we will go. But both maps, the time map and the map of space, tells us what will happen if we go in any direction. So the way the time map system works is, it's an interactive system that's very easy to do at thepower.org. What a person does is they purchase what's called your access code, which is a 5-digit code. Every time map comes with its own unique 5-digit code. And so once you have that code, then you have unlimited use of your time map. You can use your time map 1,000 times a day. It never expires. At least the code doesn't. The time map only covers 1 year at a time from birthday to birthday. So if you're 30 years old, then you're going to want to get age 30. If you're going to be 31 years old in 2 weeks, then you want to just go ahead and get age 31. But what happens is the time map shows us our past, present, and future, except our future is still yet to be determined by which direction we take, and the time map is showing us what our directions are in the context of time. You see, because the way we move through space, or the way we move through a map of the United States, is we go from one place to another place. In the time map system, beyond its profound truthfulness and accuracy and reliability and dependability, is that it has this exclusive feature, this world exclusive feature, where all of the people who are present in your life right now, the people who surround you right now, the people who are getting the most of your time and attention, they are all located and identified on your time map at the time they are happening in your life, along with the experience that's taking place from your point of view. So what this means is, this way we're able to predetermine which way and with whom is leading to what it is that we seek to accomplish. So let me give you an example. A map of the United States says if you go north, Canada is what will happen. If you go south, Mexico. But your time map is saying if you go with this lawyer, you're going to lose your case. If you go with this lawyer, you're going to win your case. If you go with this stockbroker, you're going to have financial trouble. If you go with this stockbroker, you're going to have financial success. But once again, the map is not predicting which direction you will choose, because that's called your free will, and your free will is not bound by time or space. You see, but still, regardless, the map still tells us what to expect. If you go north, Canada, south, Mexico, regardless of the fact that our free will is free. So then, because of this world exclusive feature, what happens is we can also, and this is really important. I want everybody to listen to what I'm going to say, because there's nowhere else on earth where you can find this. And that is, you can look at the time map of anybody else. As long as you have their date of birth, you can look at anybody else's time map, and because you know your own birthday, you can locate yourself on that person's time map and thus see yourself from that person's viewpoint. And so what that does is that puts you at a superior advantage in whatever your situation or circumstance, because now you have the bird's eye view where all of the darkness is removed and you can see exactly what you're stepping into. We were always taught to always look before you leap. That's what the time map system is. Look before you leap. We were always taught that timing is everything. That's what the time map system is. In other words, you'll be able to look at your time map and say to someone who's trying to get you to invest, say, not right now. Contact me in 90 days. In 90 days, we will be ready. You see, because timing is everything. You want to keep yourself moving, coherent with how the whole universe is operating in your favor. And so then what happens is the computer does all of the work, because there's only two very easy instructions for using a time map. It's so easy that we have people that are 8 years old that can teach others people how to do a time map. And so the first instruction is how to locate people on my map, because it's interactive at the website. You don't have to write anything down or anything. It's so easy. The first instruction is how to locate people on your map. And the second instruction is which definition to read, because once you see where they are, you're going to want to know what does it mean. And in both cases, the computer does all the work. So what a person does when they're at the website is they just simply enter the person's birthday and click go, and then these little computer hands are pointing to where they are on your map. You can see, oh, there they are right there. And then if you want to know, okay, what does it mean, you just bring the mouse over to that area and the definition pops out like a balloon. And so it doesn't get any easier than that. Plus, at the website, thepower.org, we have 2 instruction videos that cover both of these instructions, and both of these videos total only 11 minutes. So it takes a person 11 minutes to become a master at using the time map system. That's pretty cool, huh, Rebecca?
Well, if I can do it, just about anybody can. Seriously.
So
yeah, it's actually quite easy, guys. I had a short session with Rev Thabatti earlier today, and he explained it all, and that's part of what we're going to be getting into, is more of the nuts and bolts of it. And he's actually going to be giving a demonstration that all of us, anybody who wants to take advantage of this demonstration, will be able to log on to here in just a little bit whenever we get ready to get started on that portion of the show. So, right now what we are doing is he's giving you all this background information so that when you do go in there, it makes way more sense than maybe what's being presented right now, and it will all come together and gel.
Yes, because see, I've been often asked, Rebecca, what's the difference between the time map system and, say, numerology, astrology, and psychics? So I'll address that right now. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
The time map system is the arithmetic. Numerology is the mathematics. And astrology is the algebra. So, in other words, arithmetic is what gave birth to math. Math gave birth to algebra. And then algebra gave birth to calculus. You see, so what calculus does is calculus will take up 7 chalkboards full of equations with all of these newly discovered laws after arithmetic that further prove arithmetic. In other words, these 7 chalkboards, when all finished, proves that 1 + 1 = 2, but that's what arithmetic said in the first place. So what that means is the arithmetic can never be outperformed. In other words, astrology and numerology, they reflect each other, but they become one in the deck, meaning that none of those things can outperform the time map system. And it's the same thing when compared to psychics. In other words, there's not a psychic on earth that can come anywhere close to the accuracy and precise reliability of the time map system, nor there is no psychic that can show you what you look like from anybody else's point of view. That's an exclusive feature of the time map system. So please don't misunderstand me. I'm not speaking in any way to denounce psychics, astrologers, or numerologists.
I hope not. You're talking to one.
No, not at all. There's some very powerful psychics out there. I met a guy personally who suffered almost a near death experience head injury, and ever since that moment, it connected him with a beautiful gift. Where he's able to envision things in advance. You know, I mean, he can't do what the time map does, no, but he still has the gift. See, the reason why the time map system has been so successful and is exploding in popularity today and will always be successful is because there's no belief required. This is universal law. The time map system is universally verifiable and mathematically exact, meaning that anyone who has a date of birth and goes through 7 days a week, then that's what you need in order to qualify for using the time map system. And I have yet to meet anyone who is exempt from the rules governing existence. I have yet to meet anyone who is able to get the 25th hour in a day because there's only 24. You see, so it's like, I'll say it like this: the next time one finds themselves sitting on the toilet, remember me, please. Remember me. The next time you're sitting on the toilet, remember me, because yeah, the reason is because what's making you sit there does not care what you think or believe. It doesn't care what book you read. It doesn't care where you went to school. It doesn't care what religion you subscribe to, because this is how it works. You see, in other words, how it works, it doesn't seek our agreement. It doesn't care whether we like it or not. It's not trying to win a popularity contest. In other words, if it wants to put a tornado over there, an earthquake over there, a hurricane over there, it doesn't come to me and say, "Hey, Rev, you mind if I rip up that neighborhood? Because I don't want you to be mad at me. You know, I don't want you to be mad at me because, this is how I do things." You see, in other words, what's making us sit on the toilet, it doesn't care what we think or believe. You see, but I'm saying that's because it operates by these universal natural laws, and these universal natural laws are structured in the standard deck of playing cards, which is why we have the time map system. Basically, this is an ancient science, and so I'm not the one who invented the deck of playing cards, no. But what I did was I'm simply responsible for the modern application of a very old system, because we have mathematics today, we have computers, and we have internet. You see, where they didn't have that back then. But we have these tools now, and so it formulated together, and now what happens is this is the tool that we're using so that we can be successful in these 4 suits, so that we can be successful emotionally, hearts, so we can have successful love lives, so that we can have be successful mentally, which is clubs, to be successful financially, which is diamonds, and to be successful spiritually, which is in spades. So I don't know of anyone who's not trying to be successful in at least one of those areas. And so that's why this is so important, because no one makes a mistake because they see that they're making a mistake. In other words, that's why if we're driving in the dark, if you're on a dark road and you suddenly turn off your headlights, then what happens now is you run the risk of crashing into something or running over something that you didn't mean to do that. You didn't mean for that to happen. You see, it's just that you didn't see it. You see, so what happens in life is you may hear like an investor say, "If I would have known that I was going to lose my money monkeying around with that idiot, I would have never given him my money." You see,
That's right.
Or you might hear a lady say, "If I would have known that I was going to have so much grief getting involved with this guy, I'd have never gotten involved with him."
That's right.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. I have a tendency to get into character a little bit.
It's all good. No,
okay,
it's all
good.
good.
Okay, good. Okay. So, in other words, what they're both saying in these examples is, if I would have simply seen that I was going in the wrong direction on my time map, I would have gone in one of these other directions that was leading to what it was that I was seeking to accomplish. And then I'll tell you a story. This is an interesting story, because this was about 20 years ago. About 20 years ago, one of my clients looked at her time map and saw that she had a new relationship with someone who, coming up in the next time period, with someone who is identified as a 3 of clubs, meaning that was their identity card. And so she meets this 3 of clubs, and she's like, oh man, she's calling me up. She's, Rev, this is the greatest thing. This is so perfect. And then this relationship lasted maybe 10 days. Okay, and so now she's all upset, just like everything, it's my fault. I mean, everything, angry at me. So then what happens is, about another week or two later, she meets another guy who also had the identity of a 3 of clubs, and I believe they're still married to this day. So that's why it's so critical that having your time map, that's only just half of the story. I cannot overemphasize the importance of looking at the time maps of the people who you are involved with and seeing yourself from their viewpoint. Why? Because let's say that you are about to make a big investment with a business partner. Okay, and the reason why you're doing it is because it says financial success with this business partner on your time map. I'm saying to you, no, before you do that, you look at that person's time map, locate yourself, and if you see that that person has financial success pointing at you on their time map at the same time, that's a guarantee. That's not a guarantee from me. That's a guarantee from the universe. That's a successful outcome. You see, so because it's so important for people to be able to look at everybody's time. And some people are involved with a lot of people. Some people run big companies, because we have clients who are famous celebrities, high-level executives, and we have clients that are college students and housewives. But the point is that at thepower.org, we have VIP access accounts. The VIP access accounts give people the abilities to purchase time map credits in advance, so that way they have their own personal username and password, and then that way they have as many time maps available as they want, so that they don't have to keep buying these one at a time, because a time map covers a full year from birthday to birthday. And it costs like $29 for that full year. So it's extremely affordable, definitely cheaper than paying $4 a minute talking to a psychic. I mean, after 10 minutes with a psychic, you 10 minutes, that's $40 or $50. It's like $5 a minute. Whereas with the time map system, that's covering a full year, and and you're getting reliable, truthful, dependable answers to your most important questions. And you're being provided with illuminated directional guidance so that you can see which way and with whom is leading to what it is you seek to accomplish. Whether it's emotionally hearts, mentally clubs, financially diamonds, or if it's a major issue involving career, residence, or health, that will be addressed in spades. Am I making myself clear here?
I think you're doing very well. I think you're doing very, very well in regards to all this, Reverend Thabatti. Okay. I do.
Thank you. I mean, because this is, see, what the time map system is, I'm not personally, nor is the system interested. This is not a popularity thing. This is not this is not something to try to please everybody. I will just boldly say that the time map system is primarily designed for truth seekers and truth lovers. Because Jack Nicholson said famously in a movie one time, "They can't handle the truth." What do you mean you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Like I said, I get into character, Rebecca. I'm sorry. You can't. What do you mean you can't handle the truth? You see, but I actually respectfully disagree, Jack. Today in 2014, we definitely can handle the truth. And that's why the time map system is here. The time map system is an ancient system that is now coming in what is referred to as New Age. Because remember this, it's the most ancient of days is New Age. The most ancient of days is New Age. You see, in other words, there's nothing new here. We're just rediscovering what was once was. You see, and so why do we want the truth? Because, like I said in the intro, the truth is what brings all the religions together. Because the world is divided by religion, and religion is further divided by what they believe. The Catholics believe this, and the Protestants believe that. That's not what brings them together. That's what keeps them apart. You see, but what brings everything together is law. You see, because law, universal law, puts everybody in the same boat. Universal law doesn't give a rat's rear end what we believe. So basically, in other words, if you flip the switch, the light comes on. It doesn't care if you're a Buddhist. It doesn't care if you're a Hindu. If you're Islamic, Muslim, it makes no difference. The light comes on. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Even if you're Bill Gates, you can't purchase the 25th hour in a day. Why? Because this universal law, and universal law puts us all in the same boat. This is why everyone has to go to the toilet no matter what they think or believe. You see, because belief is basically, like I said in the scripture of the playing cards, it just teaches us that it's your belief that you're not that's keeping you from being all that you truly are, because you're made in this image and likeness. You see, because one of the reasons why the tarot, for example, is a valid art is because whereas the time map system is a science, whereas in order to obtain a degree at any university, it's either going to be an art degree or a science degree. An art degree, that means skill. That's a skill. In other words, music is a skill if you're a musician. If you can dance, that's a skill. So if you can draw or paint, that's a skill. And that's why it's called an art. So intuitive arts, that's what a psychic is. That's what a tarot reader is. That's called an intuitive art. But what gives the tarot validity is because you have to understand that perfect order is what governs the universe, and that this is why the sunrise is never late. This is why every planet is exactly where it's supposed to be at the exact time it's supposed to be there. It's so exact that we can predict thousands of years in advance not only where a solar eclipse, on what day and what time a solar eclipse will happen, we can even tell you what spot on Earth will have the best view of the eclipse. That's how the perfect order is the movement of the universe, because the nature of the spirit is perfect, whole, and complete. So with that being, so what happens is when a person is getting a tarot reading, you have to first understand that perfect order is the only activity that there is. So what happens is when you're shuffling the deck, if you're with a good reader, if a card accidentally jumps out of the deck when you're shuffling, the best readers are going to stop you right there. They're going to put the whole deck down, and they're going to delineate on that one card only. That's your reading. You see, because they know that nothing is happening by mistake. For example, over in the East, what they do, Rebecca, is they bring their hands together and they bow and they say namaste. Okay, but here in the Western Hemisphere, because we know the nature of the spirit is perfect, whole, and complete, we bring our hands together and bow and we say no mistake. They say namaste, we say no mistake. You see, because of this perfect order governing everything is why we say that life itself has an unerring way of putting us all in the perfect situations and circumstances that are necessary for our growth and development into higher states of consciousness. Or life never makes a mistake at putting us in the perfect situations and circumstances so that our soul can become spiritually awake. I mean, that's the name of the game here. You see, and so now we have a tool in the time map system that accelerates the enlightenment process. You see, because once again, no one makes mistakes because they see that they're making a mistake. And I know that there's a lot of spiritual people listening right now. And here's what I say is that no matter how spiritual we get, I'm still going to always advise you to look both ways before crossing the highway. Okay, I'm still going to tell you that because, there's some people, I don't need that because I'm spiritual and I allow myself to be guided. It's like, well, then turn your headlights off then, okay, and drive down that road and let's just see how you make out there. You see, because the point is that the more we learn to understand how the universe works, the easier it becomes to improve the way we live. You see, and so basically the whole goal of life is fulfillment. Everything just wants to be satisfied. Everything that lives just wants to be satisfied. You see, and so fulfillment comes from achievement. You see, and achievement comes from right action. And then right action comes from right thinking. And then right thinking comes from right being. From right being. And so when we're in right being, that's why it's said that knowledge is structured in consciousness, but knowledge is different in different states of consciousness. But with the time map system, the time map system is simply a tool that we are using. Because what do tools do? Tools make the job easier. For example, it's easier to change a tire if you have the wrench and you have the jack. Because what that does is it makes the job easier. That's why we use tools. You see, so over the years, I have thousands and thousands of testimonials, as you can imagine. It's like when people find out about this, they can't shut up about it. And I'm grateful for that. I don't shut up about it. In fact, I'm not. Rebecca, I'm not convinced of the system. I'm converted. My whole life is turned over to this because I'm a truth lover. I'm a truth lover. The truth is all I want because that's what the religions taught me, that's what I want. Because the truth is liberating. And what the truth does is the truth, when it says the truth will set you free, what that means is the truth exists to unshackle us from those erroneous beliefs that are obstructing our ability to enjoy this wonderful gift of life today. You see, so now that we have this available to us, and I'm telling you, it's gonna just explode beyond measure because we've come such a long way with this. Where in the beginning, the computers weren't around 20 years ago. At least not the personal computer wasn't. There definitely were no videos on it. But what happened was, and there wasn't even internet when we first got the computer. So what happened was, when people would come to see me, I would have to take a couple of hours to do the time map, and the time map was only. It was only 1/4 of the size that it is now. So in other words, it was 75% less information than what we have today. And so I would spend 2 hours making that time map for my client, and then when they would arrive, they would pay me for an hour of my time, and then they would go. But then when the computer came, I was able to then convert this into a computer program so that then the computer was able to crank out a time map in a matter of seconds. And so then from there, when the internet came along, basically I had to wait for technology to catch up with me. And so now what's happened is, instead of people having to place an order with me and then wait to receive it in the mail, now they could just go right to thepower.org and their time map is on the screen in a matter of seconds. You see, and because of that internet, that means that now we can process thousands and millions of people simultaneously. You see, so that's why I'm on tour now. That's because if Oprah would have called me 10 years ago, I would have had to decline because there's no way that I can accommodate a response to an audience that size. And actually, I have 2 national media tours lined up because I have a new book coming out in the fall entitled The Secret Wisdom of the Ages. And I bet you that many of the people in the audience know who Michael Bernard Beckwith is. And Michael Bernard Beckwith, who's my top spiritual teacher and mentor, he wrote the foreword to my book, and I just want to cry because that was just one of the greatest things that's happened in my 22-year career. That coupled with the fact, the other thing that touches me is, I write the empowerment column in the newspaper, and I'm syndicated, but I also write for Las Vegas Woman magazine.
You know what we've got coming up here, Reverend?
Okay.
Then we have our top of the hour break, and then I want everyone to stay with us when we come back. We're going to be going through some more of his stuff, as well as an online demonstration, which we can all join in. So don't go away. We'll be back after these messages. Stay with us. All right, everyone. Welcome back. It's Friday night. You're listening to Journeys with Rebecca radio show right here on Revolution Radio at Freedom Slip Studio B in wolfspiritradio.com and journeyswithrebecca.com. We're here tonight. It's all about you. The latest book from Reverend Thabatti. Got the doctor thing going on. And we've been talking about time map systems. And Reverend, I'd like to just share a couple thoughts here, not only with you, but also with the audience tonight. You know, this time map system is an excellent system for if you have a question. Again, I call these like the real life questions. Not that our other lives in the spiritual sense is less than, but we'll call it the 3D life then. How's that? We'll use that expression. But again, it's about making decisions and choices in your life, and we all face those every day. Whether we need to pay off our car, buy a new one, buy a used one, who are we buying it from, whether or not we need to plan that vacation, the people that we've invited, if they're good people, to create a good environment for our vacation or for a retreat or whatever the case may be, if we're going to invest some money or if we're going to come into some money so that we can make different choices, whatever the case may be, whatever it is. So these are the different kinds of questions that the time map system is distinctly being presented here for today. And as a teacher myself, as a metaphysical teacher, I taught Tarot for many, many years. I wrote a book on it called Intuitive Tarot. The intuitive approach to Tarot. And one of the things that I studied was what you call the 52 deck, of, some people call it the playing cards. And it's interesting is that the Tarot originally started out as 22 cards and then incorporated the deck of cards that we know of as the 52, which makes up what we call a standard Tarot deck of 78. And the reason for that is because the 22, which they call them the major arcana, was used for divinatory purposes. And of course, in those ages, it was illegal. As a matter of fact, you would get killed for trying to divine, in other words, using your spiritual sense to divine direction or what have you. And so it incorporated the playing cards into the deck in order to create the illusion that it was just a regular deck of playing cards. So it's really a very fascinating story how these two, the Tarot deck and the playing cards, came together to create a unit, and how they are still used by some, are just use the major arcana only, and some people use, it's called cartomancy when you're using it as divining, and the 52 card deck, and all of this is a testament to both the Tarot and the playing cards, the 52, that obviously there's something to it, because this has been going on for, I've looked at it, it's, well over 1,000 years back in history. is where I went. Actually, a little bit longer than that. And at that point, I couldn't find any more information on it prior to that. So who knows how old these systems really are? But they are ancient. They're wise, and they're valid, and they're used for completely different purposes for different reasons. And so the 52, and I'm not unfamiliar with your system here. Like I said, I studied this a lot years ago, and I did not study this particular system, what you call the time map, in the way that you are presenting it at all. And so for me, when I look at this and some of the things that you and I went through today, which is, it's very practical. It's very practical because the thing that is really nice about the system is that it is about choice. You can look at the situation and then you can make a choice based on what shows up in those charts that you're looking at, in those pieces of information. And you've said, and you said to me today, that if it doesn't feel right, then don't use it. And so you're then taking that out of just the idea that it has all the answers to also that you know if it has all the answers because you yourself can feel it. So I thought that was the most important part, to let the people know here that this is really about using this to better your life, to make some choices, and really looking at your life from how you're perceived by others as well, which is kind of unique in and of itself, is that you can go in and look at somebody else's chart on really how do I show up in their life? How do I look in their life? Yes. And am I as important in their life as they are in mine?
Sure.
So again, it's all about choices. Then you have information. You can deal with it from a more informed place of being. It certainly does not take away from the spiritual aspect of people and their meditations and raising their consciousness level. This is a helpmate, a huge, important helpmate that people can choose to bring into their space or not.
Yes.
And so I kind of wanted to, bring all of those points up because I think it's important that people understand, because our conversation today certainly is not something that we shared with the audience, and it can't be repeated because it was already done. It's, as you say, it's already in the past. So, there's a lot of times when a guest comes on and we'll have a conversation before the show, and we cover a lot of points, and then when we get on the show, we forget to share some of those thoughts and ideas that we had when we're on the air. So I thought it was a good thing to do that at this time. So anyway, that being said, I'm going to let you continue on, and whenever you're ready to bring us all in, you let us know.
Okay.
And I'll start posting it and all of that, and then maybe what you want to do is maybe finish up whatever it was we had to go to break for, and then we'll move forward in however works for you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, just prior to the break, the other thing that I was mentioning, I was just in an emotional space where I talked about my new book, The Secret Wisdom of the Ages, coming out in the fall. And also I write for Las Vegas Woman magazine, and I'm the only male ever allowed to write for this all-woman publication.
Ooh.
And I've been in every issue for the last 3 years.
That's an honor.
Well, see, that's what I'm trying to say, is I'm trying to say that coupled with the fact that Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith wrote the foreword to The Secret Wisdom of the Ages, the book coming out in the fall. But just between those two things, I can't think of anything else that can occur that will ever exceed or go beyond that, because both of those two honors are just so deeply rooted in my heart.
Sure.
And so,
Wow.
Since you brought up the history of the Tarot, I have some remarks I'd like to say to that, Rebecca, which is...
Absolutely.
Okay, first, my personal definition of history is about events that did not happen, written by people who weren't there. So that's my personal definition of history. But what I do know about the standard deck of playing cards and the tarot is that every book that you'll read written on the tarot will tell you that the standard deck of playing cards came from the tarot, and I'm going to say that's not true.
That isn't what I said, though, was it?
No, you didn't say that. You didn't say that.
Okay.
I said the books, the books that are on the shelf will say that. But what I'm saying is that actually they were called tarots, which mean the tarot was derived out of the playing cards mathematically. They were mathematically derived. You see, the deck of playing cards originated with a brotherhood called the Order of the Magi. That's M-A-G-I. This is over 25,000 years ago. The Magi are defined in any dictionary as the wise men in the story of Jesus. They were the wise men. There's a reason why they were referred to as the wise men. Okay, because then the Order of the Magi were the ones that created the deck of playing cards, or I should say the deck of playing cards almost created itself because of the way the universe is structured. But about 150 years ago, there was a book written called the Mystic Test Book. This is for people that really just want to go deep, deep, deep. The Mystic Test Book was written by a man named Olney Richmond. That's O-L-N-E-Y, Richmond, like Richmond, Virginia. And he wrote that book under the authority. It was authorized by the Order of the Magi for him to write the book because of what you said earlier, Rebecca. Prior to that, anyone that came forward with the teachings that would defy the church, you were either stoned to death, fed to the lions, or burned at the stake. I mean, that's just the way it was.
All three of them. Yep.
All three of them, right. But now that that kind of grip of the church is no longer, is why the New Age is returning. It's returning. And so what happened with Olney Richmond is, what Olney Richmond did is Olney Richmond would invite reporters to his home. And what would happen is when the reporter would arrive at his home, as soon as they came to the door, he would hand them a sealed envelope and then escort them into his dining room, where there would be a table that would have a cloth over it. And on this cloth, there were 7 squares drawn on that cloth, where the first one said Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune side by side. And then there was a deck of playing cards and a pair of dice. So right at a particular time, what would happen is Olney Richmond would have the reporter shuffle the deck of playing cards for 60 seconds. At 60 seconds, they would stop, and then 20 seconds later, he would have the reporter cut the deck. Then 20 seconds later, cut the deck again. And then 20 seconds later, cut the deck. Then he would have the reporter place 1 card in each square on the table. Okay, so there's 7 cards now laid out, exposed on the table. Then, about another 2 minutes later, he would have the reporter take the dice and throw the dice onto the table. Then, Olney Richmond would ask the reporter to open the envelope. And when the reporter would open the envelope, there would be a notarized letter in there stating what time the reporter arrived at Olney Richmond's house, what card was in each square. In other words, what card was in Mercury, what card was in Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and what was the number thrown on the dice. You see, in other words, this here is a mathematical science. It doesn't need to be agreed with or believed. In other words, it's successful because it does not need to be believed, because it can be proven to anyone that has a date of birth and goes through 7 days a week. You see, in fact, that's been about the only adversity that I've ever experienced in the 2 decades of doing this, is someone would say, I don't believe in that kind of stuff. And it's like, sir, who told you to believe anything? There's nothing to believe here. You know, this is what it is. The truth is what it is, whether you believe it or not. You know, the truth doesn't, you see, because the ultimate reality of our existence is you're either standing with the truth or you'll have to face the truth. But either way, the truth always wins. You see, so what the time map system does is put the truth on your side. You see, so and provide you with the illuminated directional guidance, which is designed to lead you to victory in what it is that you're seeking to accomplish. You see, also showing you who to avoid, when and why to avoid them. Simply stated, the time map system can be summarized in saying that it's a who, what, and when system, because the time map shows us exactly by date when things are going to change in your life. By date. You see, because we go through time periods, but people don't know what they are. Because why? Because we're driving in the dark. We don't have a clue. I've seen the time map system prevent suicides. Prevent suicides because a person looked at their time map and saw that, oh my God, I'm just in a turbulent period right now that's going to end in 3 days. You see, and then I've seen marriages saved. You see, because it's easier to have a relationship with someone when you can see yourself from their viewpoint. And they can see themselves from yours, which is what the time map system is. Because for those people that are just tuning in, unlike anything else in existence, the time map system available at thepower.org is an interactive birth chart that's very easy to use with 2 simple instructions that are explained by instructional videos at the website that show you exactly when and how things are going to change in your life based on which direction you go. Because, Rebecca, our life is the result, the accumulative result of the choices we make and direction we take. In other words, everyone listening right now, that's a universal law that applies to us all. In other words, you had to make the choice to be the host, I had to make the choice to be the guest, and the audience had to make the choice to listen. You see, and I'm saying that this is what brought this all together, and it's going to continue to be that way. Except now, with the time map system, we're not making decisions, especially important decisions, in the dark. Now, the time map system is not for, where a person goes to decide, should I buy the green Mercedes or the blue Mercedes? For that, I'm going to send you to a psychic. But this is, in other words, this is for serious people, because the time map system is fundamentally for truth seekers, for people who want to experience having the liberating power of truth at their disposal, having the power of truth on their side in every important thing that they decide to do. You see, and then this gives us the ability to understand the context of our relationships, to understand the context of what it means when it says timing is everything. Meaning that, I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'll be on record as saying this so that way it can be replayed that I told you so. When eHarmony or Match.com finds out about this, and I mean whichever one finds out about it first, watch out, because they're going to immediately integrate this into whatever program they have. Why? Because this is the ultimate compatibility tool. The ultimate compatibility tool. Because no one is going to invest in a relationship that's not destined to work. No one's going to do that. And the time map, you can see, look, this isn't going to work. You see, or exactly, it's like driving, like I said, whatever your reason is for using headlights when driving down a dark road is the same exact reason. And that reason may vary from this person to that person, but whatever your reason, that's the reason why you need the time map system. And so the time map system actually used to cost $77 a piece. They were $77 or $100 for 2. Now they're under $30 because the automation, and now that we don't have to deal with printing costs and postage costs and toner costs and all that, we were able to bring the price down to make this more affordable. And then with the VIP access accounts, people can get these for as little as $10 a piece, depending on how many you buy in advance. So the importance here is to understand that the difference between, say, the tarot and the time map system is the tarot represents art. It represents art. But what makes it valid is because it still falls into the science of perfect order governs everything. Perfect order. The sun doesn't rise by accident. In other words, there's a law that says if you continue doing things the exact same way, you will keep getting the same result. In fact, I had a magazine contact me about 20 years ago asking me, they asked me if I would write an article on destiny versus free will to finally settle that argument. And so I did. I wrote it. They published it. And what I'm saying is there's been this long-standing battle, for example, between science and religion. And the battle is because of their differences in what establishes the criteria of truth. In science, it's prove it, and in religion, it's who said it. In other words, in religion, it's like Jesus said it, or it's in the Bible, well, then it's true. That doesn't work in science. They don't care who said it. You prove it, or it's not true. But then, in the other matter of what was I saying before I got to that about the art? What was it? Yeah, the art and the science. In other words, when one understands that perfect order is what governs existence, is why when a person is actually sitting, whenever we're sitting with anybody, whether they're a reader or not, whatever is being said is exactly what's supposed to be said at the time that it's being said. Because the rule is that we cannot control everything, but we can control our response or reaction to anything. And how we respond to things that happens is a mirror that's reflecting where we are in spiritual maturity or where we are in our level of consciousness. And so, with that being said, the time map system, again, is designed to be a tool that provides us with illuminated empowerment. You see, so that we can always be at a superior advantage regardless of whatever our situation or circumstance is. Another thing that I probably should mention that I didn't mention is that we have courses, we have classes available for people who want to become certified time map consultants. And what that's all about is a way for people to basically earn a living being an exponent of truth and light to anybody that they want to be of service to. And so all of that information is also available at the website. So what happened in my journey was after I became familiar with the deck of playing cards and surrendered my whole life to it, my whole life is devoted to maintaining the purity of the teaching so that this system remains effective for all the generations to come. And so I say that because I strongly believe that we have in our possession right now this ancient science that's going to give us the ability to one day be able to predict when and where earthquakes will happen. You see, because the reason why we can't predict when earthquakes happen is called Thabitti's theory. The reason why it's called Thabitti's theory is because it comes from me. Thabitti's theory says we can never solve a calculus equation without applying the fundamental rules of arithmetic. And what I'm saying is seismology represents the calculus equation, but the time map system represents the arithmetic, because the time map system contains the coherent functioning of the laws of change. You see, because that's the one thing that's constant through our living experience is that things are going to change. And so the time map tells us by date. You see, whereas I don't know how that works in a tarot, but here it works by date, where it says, look, on January 3rd, this is when things are going to change for this individual, and this is how they're going to change based on which direction you choose, and the time map is showing you what those directions are. No one even knows what their directions are. You want to talk about living in the dark, you see, but enlightenment is about coming out of darkness and living an illuminated existence. That's why the time map is an illuminated automated empowerment tool, which is simply designed to help us solve and prevent problems, and that's why it's exploding in popularity. Generally, it's almost like a Lay's potato chip, where you can't buy just one, because if you're in a relationship, I guarantee you there's no way after you see this that you're not going to want to see the time map of your significant other. You're crazy if you don't. Then, yes.
Well, that being said, I'm not sure how much time you wanted to spend on the actual kind of showing portion of it, but I wanted to remind you we're under a 30-minute time mark right now.
Oh, thank you. Well, here's the thing. Whatever we're showing, I think might be unfair to people that can't see what we're talking about. In other words, you understand, and I don't want to be unfair. Everybody can see the same thing, just go to thepower.org. There's videos right there that show you how it works. You see, and that for me to do that, I mean, with all due respect, Rebecca, if you insist, I'll do it. But
it's what you had said originally you wanted to do, so I was just trying to remind you of that. That was all. Yeah, you did.
What the heck was I sipping on? I mean, what the heck would make that come out? Did that slip out? I mean, what the heck was I thinking? I mean, really, was I in an altered state of consciousness here?
You might have been. You might have been. Man.
See, that's what happens when you do all that meditation and fasting that I do. It just really, it's like I gotta bring my feet back on the ground here, Rebecca. But you know what? I promise, no levitating in public. No levitating in public. Good. Okay, I gotta keep that under control. Yeah, I must keep that under control. But I mean, in other words, let me ask you this, Rebecca. If I go right now, because I do have it set up, I have the join.me set up. I've got the number for people to tune into, but only some people are going to be able to see what I'm talking about, and others won't be able to see. And if I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of the people that can't see but want to hear what's going on because they're driving, or they're listening, and I don't want them to tune out. I want everybody to stay here because this is a world exclusive conversation going on here. There's nowhere else on earth where you can get the time map system. The time map system is for those that are just tuning in, is a mathematical technology that integrates our date of birth with universal laws that govern existence. And that anyone who has a date of birth and goes through 7 days a week, then this conversation applies to you. And so I really believe that we have reached a point in human evolution where we are ready now to have the truth revealed to us. If I did not hold that core belief, I would have never gone public with this. I would have just kept it to myself. But when I saw the difference that this is making in everybody's life who uses it, and I mean the tears of joy that I have seen in people, the gratitude to me for bringing this forward has just been immense. I don't know how much longer it's going to be before Oprah finds out about this, but I'm sure she's going to hear about it soon, especially when she finds out that her man, Michael Beckwith, wrote the foreword to my book. That's going to be pretty strong there. And I'm just glad that we're all set up now with the automation so that everyone can be served, because the instructions are universal. The instructions come in 2 videos at the website, thepower.org. And you know what? We even have thepower.com, Rebecca. We have thepower.com because we know some people are going to type that by accident. So when you go to thepower.com, you'll see my picture, click on Get Your Time Map, and it'll bring you to thepower.org, because thepower.org is where the action is. Because the time map system is interactive. That's what makes it fun. You just tell the computer, look, I want you to locate this person. And you you'll tell the computer the person's birthday, and the computer will locate them for you. Then there's going to also be those individuals that may want more. And if they want more, we have private phone consultations for those people that have some kind of big thing pending. There's people that, look, they're about ready to invest in a franchise. There's people that are getting ready to, the corporations use the time map system for team building. many employers use it as a tool for hiring, so that way they don't have to keep training somebody that's not going to work out. And I can just go on and on and on. Anytime someone is, if you're single, and you meet somebody, and your tail just won't stop wagging, when you think about this person, that I say, that you, like a person's going to look at the time map and they'll see, they'll locate the person and they'll see, what are you stepping in before you step in it? You're able to look before you leap. You see, how much is it worth to prevent a costly or painful mistake? How much is that worth? You see, so basically the time map system costs like less than 60 cents a week to use. Less than 60 cents a week. And so, also, another part of this is, when you're a single person, okay, and you're in the whole dating thing, you'll be able to see what your compatibility is. In fact, Rebecca, I am so close to making that become my next book, which is I'm going to call it the Book of Compatibility, because there's so much different types of compatibility. There's romantic compatibility, there's business monetary compatibility, there's long-term compatibility, there's short-term compatibility, there's compatibility in the immediate, and then there's compatibility in the long range. Then there's people, for example, that may have a huge legal case. They may be suing somebody, or they may be being sued. The time map is an invaluable tool, because if you're being sued, and if you can see that you're destined to lose with the lawyer that you chose, that you're already thousands of dollars invested in, then hey, look, settle. Or if you can see that you got legal victory, that's 6 months down the road, then have your lawyer postpone. Say, look, you get sick or something, okay, but do not show up, okay, so that we can delay this, so that this happens in a favorable time period. Because remember, we've been told forever, timing is everything. That's true. We've been told forever, the cards don't lie. When it comes to this deck, that can't be any more true. And then we've also been told that forewarned is forearmed. That's also true. You see, so the whole idea is to come out of the darkness and into the light. If we're in a dark room and we're moving about in a dark room, we might stub our toe. And I tell you, I bet some choice words come out when that happens. We stub our toe, or we trip over something, or we smash something, break something. We step on the little puppy. You see, but what happens is, when the light is turned on, which is what the time map system is, when the light is turned on, all of a sudden we can look around and see, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is what's going on, and then we have a better understanding. Okay, I'm in this time period, and this is when my next time period starts, and then the next time period starts after that, and then the next time period starts after that, and we're able to see. And then, you don't have to believe it. You can go to your time map and go to the past, and you can look at it and say, look, does this or does this not identify that person? Well, yes, it does. And then, did this or did this not happen? You prove it for yourself, because the time map system is universally verifiable and mathematically exact to anyone who has a date of birth and goes through 7 days a week.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there for just a second, because we had a question that came in, and I'm going to ask it of you from the audience, and let's see how this fits in. We were talking about relationships
Yes.
earlier on, and the question was, what decides if a relationship works? Many relationships are not meant to be lifelong, but they serve a great learning experience for us. So how does that fit in?
I agree with the statement. But what decides if a relationship works? You do. That's the answer. You do. Because I can't tell you, oh, this person is good for you. You're the one that has to who makes that determination. How the time map fits in is, the time map simply explains the changes that a relationship is going to go through in life. You're going to have good days. You're going to have favorable periods, not favorable periods. People are going to come and go, live, die. All that's going to happen, but at least you can see it unfolding as it happens and have a clearer understanding of what's going on.
Good. Okay. Great.
If there's any more questions, because I think would be more helpful is to take questions as opposed to trying to do a visual presentation in an audio way.
So why don't you do this? Because we talked about this before we went on the air today. Is you have my birth date there?
Yes.
So pick something out that showed up in my chart that we chatted about, something that, is relatively benign.
Yes. Well,
and
yes, I'm looking at your time map right now. Okay? And so one of the things that you and I discussed, okay, on your time map was I had showed you that your next time period starts on May the 29th. Okay?
Correct.
So that's when you'll go into your next time period. And one of the things that I had said to you, Rebecca, was I said that if you were to invest with this person on your map that's identified as this 9 of Hearts, then that's going to move you in a direction of financial trouble and financial problems. And then I also showed you in another location on your map that I said, if you invest with this individual that's identified as this 2 of Diamonds, you'll be moving in the direction of financial success. You see, so the reminder is understanding the way a map works. What a map does is a map shows you where you are, and a map shows you what will happen if you go in any direction. But the map does not predict what direction you will choose. So what I'm saying is, just because you see, for example, stockbroker number 1 on the map does not mean you're going to move in the direction or do business with stockbroker number 1, even though he's on your map. In the same way that just because Mexico is on a map of the United States does not mean you're ever going to go to Mexico, even though it is on the map. You see, the map is a tool that we use to help us to navigate and maneuver successfully. As far as a map of the United States, that's a where map, because wherever we are, there's always the time we're there, because time and space is what Albert Einstein is most proving, are related. That's his most famous. That's what he's most famous for. You see, but not only the time and space continuum, but proving that these two things must coexist. So what I'm proud to say is that what the time map system does is it completes the E equals MC squared. It completes the Einstein law of relativity, because all we've ever had so far for thousands of years is a map of space. But now, for the first time in our history, we have the world's first personal time map available at thepower.org. And I'm just so grateful to be an exponent of truth and light, which is what the time map system is. You see, and then it also works with other issues, not just financial. There's people that have legal issues. There's people that have romantic issues. There's people that have family issues. There's people who have health issues. There's people that have career issues. But those are the issues, and only the pertinent issues is what the time map covers. It doesn't, get into the small stuff. The small stuff is, that's not what this is. This is covers the pertinent issues regarding when and how things are going to change and who's involved. Who's involved? Because another thing about the time map system is the time map system lets us know basically what are the cosmic weather conditions. In other words, when I say cosmic weather, in other words, what are you going to be dealing with? What type of influences? Because as the planets continue to move, things are going to continue to change. The time map system reveals the coherent functioning of the laws of change, but it's done in a simplified way that even Homer Simpson could do this. I get into character. That, Rebecca. I get into character. Yeah. My man Homer. But in other words, that was the whole point, is this system can get extremely advanced, and that's why I wanted to tell you about Olney Richmond and what he was able to do. Because, see, when a person goes to the power.org, and if they look up their birthday on the birth chart, they're going to discover and learn for the first time what their birth card is. In other words, we all have that one card in the deck that belongs to us. That's my card. You see, and what that birth card does is it serves two functions. One is that card describes your personality. It explains why you are the way you are. Okay? And that's that all of that information is contained in my current book, which is entitled All About You, also available at the website thepower.org. And then the second function of that birth card is that birth card serves as our primary identity symbol so that we can be located throughout the entire time map system. And so there's this old sage wisdom saying that says, know thyself. And I don't know anything out there that gives us that ability greater than the book All About You coupled with the time map system. That's almost like having the full value, the 200% value of life, which is like the 200% value of life means that we're experiencing the 100% inner value and the 100% outer value of life, which makes it the full value of our existence, because we exist between an inner and outer world, and they're perfect mirrors. That's why we say that our life is an innocent reflection of our attitude, perception, and belief. This is why if you show me anyone with a bad attitude, I will show you who a miserable person is. You see, because no one is exempt from these laws. And so what happens is, in the process of, many of us have been trying to be successful and never understanding, why is it that I'm not able to be successful? It's because you're going the wrong way. You want to get yourself on the right track.
I want to kind of interject some things here.
Okay.
What little bit I worked with it today, one of the things that I found that could be valuable is, and you've made the statement, and I've probably said it 100 times, the only constant thing in this universe is change.
Yes.
That is the constant, is change.
Yes.
So, we all have people that are in our lives, whether they be friends, they be coworkers, they be family, business partners, whatever the case may be. And people change because their attitudes change. Something has come up in their life that has created this change that can be also outwardly expressed by their actions, by what they do towards you or towards themselves, whatever the case may be. In this particular system, because you look at these people, you can say, okay, well, I've known this person for 10 years. I've been in business with them. Something doesn't seem right. You could actually go in there and kind of figure out, by using the system, maybe what's coming up for them. It will help you to decide maybe how to go forward with them, not only just from the practical standpoint of, I'm not sure I myself can make this work, and he's not or she's not going to be on board based on what it is that's going on here. Maybe I just need to have a heart-to-heart. Let's see what we can come up with, something different. You can make a different choice. You can go about it in a different way. You can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and carry you both.
Yes.
And again, you can look down and see how these fluctuations, because nothing remains the same either. Human beings have a tendency to get into these routines, getting up at a certain time, going to sleep at a certain time, eating at a certain time. And we become very stuck. And then when something comes along that throws something into that stuckness, we don't always have the tools of coping. Because we're so focused on our structure. I've talked a lot about this. And in this case, what this does is in your own space, when you're just sitting there, you can go in and look at it. You can mull it over. You can think about it. You can look at it and you go, okay, so here's something that how they're perceiving me. This is how I'm perceiving them. Maybe I need to get out of my structure. Maybe it's time for me to do a little changing. Maybe it's time for me to step up to the plate. Maybe it's time for me to move on down the road. But it's about making choices. And it's about being able to identify what some of those choices could or could not be.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's where it becomes a really kind of a valuable tool, in as much as if you recognize that nothing is static, that it all changes, that you certainly can go in here and figure out a year from now, and by your sections, right, by each period, right, that your time map is, what do I need to be aware of down the road? A year from now, it looks like I could hit a bumpy road with this.
Yes.
And you can plan for it. You can make some different choices along the way. And this is where it becomes a really, really valuable tool in everyday life. The things in our everyday world, from the time we get up until we go to sleep at night, that we interact with in a very conscious manner.
Yes.
And all of us have to get up, and all of us have to go through our day, no matter what that day is for us. Who do we have in our life? Who do we not have in our life? Somebody that shows back up. And, oh my gosh, now what am I supposed to do? I thought I'd close the door on that, but here they are again. Now what? So you can go in there, and it becomes a tool that you can see to clear things up, to move forward, to do whatever you need to do. Yes. But it's all about the choices, and that's where I think it becomes a very valuable tool.
Yes. Well, what I had said was, our life is the accumulative result of the choices we make and direction we take. Except now with the time map system, we get to see in advance what our directions are. Number one. Another thing that I said was, we cannot control everything, but we can control our response to anything. In other words, you can't change the date that your period changes. You can't change what time the sun rises. You can't change the fact that it's raining outside. Okay, but we can control how we choose to respond to it. So I'm going to give you a concrete example of what you were talking about, Rebecca. Whereas, for example, okay, let's say a time map user, okay, can see that the brother-in-law happens to be a stockbroker, and the brother-in-law has been, really pressuring you to invest with him, and you've got all the family politics there surrounding you in this circumstance to say, hey, what do you mean you're not going to? And your time map is telling you you're gonna lose money investing with your brother-in-law. You see, so where the time map system is putting the user at advantage is, instead of giving him $10,000, you give him $1,000. You see, because you already know. In other words, because remember, you're at superior advantage here. And so you're the one who know. In other words, they're in the dark. You're not. You see, and so what happens in this example that I'm giving you is, okay, the family politics and the family pressure. You're a new member, newly married into the family, and you want to show that you're being supportive. You see, but if you can see that this is not taking you in a direction leading to what it is that you seek to accomplish, then you can modify, or minimize the loss. You can minimize the error. You can reduce the mistake. You see, in other words, because like I said, no one, at least not a conscious person, no one makes a mistake because they see that they're making a mistake. It's always like, mistakes are something that we crash into. Why? Because we're in the dark. We didn't see that. You see, so in other words, like I said, if I would have known that I was going to have this trouble with this guy, I would have never gotten involved with him. You see, so that's what this is. This is a powerful tool for people who want to succeed in business, for people who want to succeed in relationships, that people want to just succeed just inside of their own individuality. Because the proverb still remains, know thyself. Know thyself, and know that the truth will set you free. And so since it's been said forever that the cards don't lie, then therefore that makes this a perfect match for all truth seekers of the world. Especially given the fact that there's no belief required. Because no matter what a person believes, it never changes what the truth is. It never changes.
Isn't that the truth?
Hey, I like that, Rebecca. You know, Rebecca, you make me laugh so much. You had me laughing so hard earlier today that I don't have any laugh left. you had me in stitches. You're so sweet, and you're just so delightful and just a joy. I'm so happy, and I feel blessed to be connected to you today,
Oh,
and
thank you.
being a guest on your show too. You know,
Thank
and
you.
if people take a look at your picture, you know, you're not hard on the eyes either.
Aw.
You know, very nice there. They call that eye candy where I live. They call that eye candy. That's eye candy. You know what I mean? Makes the tail wag.
You're a funny guy, Reverend, but thank you so much.
Sure.
So, you know, we're down to like probably, I don't know, between 5 and 6 minutes, maybe 7.
Okay.
You know, what I'd like for you to do now, if you don't mind,
Mm-hmm.
is you talked about the books that you've written, and of course the one that will be coming out.
Yes.
Maybe you could go back over just a little bit about that information,
Certainly.
about the books, and of course I think they're also available on your website, all that.
Yes.
And then of course any other wonderful pieces of information that you'd like to share with us tonight.
Well, the first thing I would like to say is I want to thank the audience for listening and for tuning into this. I also want to thank everybody in the audience in advance for telling your family and friends about the time map system. Thank you for that in advance while I have the opportunity to say that. And then, yes, the book All About You is a book on personality characteristics, which is designed simply to assist us in the proverb of know thyself. So what happens is when you read your chapter in that book, your birthday will direct you to what chapter to read. And what happens is you will discover personality. It will explain personality characteristics that explain why you are the way you are. And then it talks about how you operate on a subconscious level, what it is that you're becoming, or what you keep becoming, and what your pattern is. What's your passion and wants? What drives you and makes you tick? What areas are you expanding and growing? What are your lifetime challenges and your lifetime difficulties? With whom are you most compatible? What birthdays are you most compatible? This is in the overall, not in the short term, because short term compatibility is covered in the time map. But long term compatibility, that's in the book All About You. And then what famous celebrities also share your personality traits. And so that book can be bought in part or in whole. In other words, if you just want your chapter and the chapter for your significant other, then this is $2.95 a piece for your birth card. Or if you want the entire book, you can get the whole book for under $30. It's $29. It's like a 200 page book. Then the book that's coming out this fall is called The Secret Wisdom of the Ages. And it's being put out there by the same people who represent Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle and Neil Donald Walsh. So I'm really in good company here, and I'm really thrilled about it. And then once again, the foreword was written by my mentor and my greatest spiritual teacher of all, which is Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who has the Agape Center out in Los Angeles, California. I'd like to put a plug in for his website. May I do that?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. His website is Agape Live, AGAPELIVE.com. That I highly recommend that to anybody that likes to get food for the soul. He's the most powerful, most inspirational teacher that I'm aware of who's still alive today. And so definitely want to put in a plug for him, because like I said, between he and Las Vegas Woman Magazine, I don't think there's anything that can be more honoring. And, maybe being on Rebecca's show, being on Rebecca's show, I mean, that's up there too. I mean, because you really are a blessing and a gift, Rebecca. You really are. And I'm grateful that you are allowing yourself to be an exponent of truth and light today, so that everyone now has this opportunity of a lifetime to be able to get an understanding of their life that was never ever available before. And I'm so grateful because so many people have lived and died never ever having all the things, that we have available to us that oftentimes we even take for granted. Can you imagine how our ancestors would have loved to have flown in an airplane? Can you imagine how our ancestors would love to look in a box or look inside of a box and see something that's happening as it's happening anywhere in the world? To hold a device in your hand where you can, within a matter of seconds, you can be talking to somebody that's out there on the space shuttle, at the space station. You could dial a number and you're talking to somebody in the space station. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Okay here.
Yeah, I'm still amazed by fax machines. I tell people that all the time, seriously.
Yes.
Yeah, you put a piece of paper in, it comes out in the other end just by dialing a phone number. I still think that is just the coolest thing ever. And, we've got Skype. That's a new thing. The internet, yeah. I mean, there's just lots of great things that we really need to be...
They have 3D copy machines. 3D!
Yes.
3D copy. I mean, what's up with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I'll build me a house. Let me program it in and build me one. Yeah.
Yes. But
They're doing it. They're doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I'm blown away. In other words, the time map system is not, in other words, I'm not convinced of it. I'm converted by it. I've demonstrated this tens of thousands of times. And even to this day, 22 years later, I never cease to be amazed. Just so amazed at how, of something that could embody such integrity, such honesty, such truthfulness, such powerful reliability and accuracy. I mean, it's like, and being a truth lover, it's like, that's why I'm married to the deck. I'm just married to it. Because at least I found at least one thing in my life that will always tell me the truth, that will always be honest with me. And yes, we can handle the truth, Jack Nicholson. We can handle it. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. I agree with that. Perfect timing. Reverend Thabatti was my guest tonight. Absolutely been fantastic to have you on. Please remember everyone to go to thepower.org. Check it out. Reverend Thabatti, thank you so much. And for all of you listening, thank you. Go have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.